Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back with another video, and we finally have yet another update for the minifig wall. I know these things are coming a little few and far between, but it's kind of difficult to try to maintain collecting all these figures among the other various projects on my channel, but I'm not going to bore you with excuses. We have another update once again, and I think it's a pretty interesting minifig haul. So we're going to start things off with the classic figures that I've gotten, and oh god, what is that? Probably should have warned you guys before I just shoved this thing in the screen. So yeah, we have Aldarbedo, the original Aldarbedo. It's a mess. To put it quite frank, this figure is pretty awful. It came out in, I think, 99 or 2000, and it was in what LEGO calls a pod racing bucket. So it was basically kind of a Star Wars themed bucket of parts, and it came with some stuff to make your own pod racers, and it also came with this abomination. This was pretty high on my list of the ugliest Star Wars figures, and in terms of just worst overall figures, this is probably at the top of that list. So, I mean, what more can you say about it? It's a weird battle droid body with 3 arms, random slope. They gave it a minifig face. Like, that's really what bewilders me about this. Like, if you look at Aldarbedo, in fact, I'll pull up a picture of what his character looks like in Star Wars. Like, why would the decision be, oh, let's give him a minifig head? Like, I know back then they weren't doing as many custom molds for characters, but there's no way I would have ever attempted to recreate this figure by using a minifig head. So yeah, like, I think I mentioned this in my video for the ugliest Star Wars figs, but the biggest problem with this figure is you can show this to the most hardcore Star Wars fan, and I don't think they would ever guess that this is supposed to be Aldarbedo, so it really is just failing on multiple levels. But nonetheless, I finally have him for the wall. Now that I have him, I can kind of put that behind me and hopefully never have to think about that figure again. Over to the right side is a much better figure. It is the original B-Wing pilot, so you can see he's sporting that red jumpsuit. I always thought it was kind of cute that, like, LEGO, for their original pilots, they all had the same, like, torso printing. They just kind of switched out the colors of the jumpsuit. And he has this, I guess, just standard motorcycle style helmet with a lime green visor, which, I mean, if you look at, like, what the B-Wing helmet looks like, it's kind of funny that this is the approach they went with, especially since the X-Wing pilots got their own molded helmet. Like, I always thought it was kind of interesting that, like, they went so far to give those guys a molded helmet, but not like the A-Wing or the B-Wing pilots. But nonetheless, finally have this guy. I never did own the original B-Wing, so it's kind of cool to have this figure. And yeah, that's really all I gotta say about this. Next up, we have the Clone Wars figures in this haul. I've been mentioning that I really do want to start filling out a lot of the gaps in terms of my Clone Wars figures in the collection, and these are 3 that I surprisingly didn't have. So this one right here is Yoda. The unique thing about this Yoda is it's the Clone Wars Yoda with gray hair. I guess it came in 2 sets. It came in the Republic Frigate set as well as the AAT. I think most of the other Clone Wars Yodas just had white hair on the back, so that's kind of what's different and unique about this one. I still think Clone Wars Yoda figure looks relatively creepy, so I'm not really a big fan of this figure, but it's nice to have in my collection. Next up, we have the Clone Wars Saisi-10. I think this head mold is great. This one obviously came out before the movie-themed one in the Palpatine's Arrest set. This one was in, I think, 2 sets. Would have come in his Jedi Starfighter as well as, I think, the Jedi Shuttle set as well. So the headpiece is just pretty incredible, actually. Like, the molding on it, the print on it, it's all quite good. It even has back torso printing, which is nice. And the only bad thing about this figure is, of course, the face, because it's a Clone Wars figure, and that's what we would expect from Clone Wars figures. So other than that, I think it's actually a fine figure. Then we have Obi-Wan. Now, this is a weird figure. This is one of the last Clone Wars-styled figures. You can see that it's not the traditional Clone Wars Obi-Wan. There's a bit more detail on the head. It actually even has a double-sided head, which I didn't even know. The funny thing to think about is that this figure actually came out in 2013, which... it's just so weird to think that, like, that recently LEGO was putting out the big bug-eyed figures. But, I mean, the torso print looks awesome. The leg printing also looks incredible. This may have been one of the first figures that they actually did like that, specifically on a Jedi. And the back printing looks really good as well. Like, all in all, absent the face, this is actually a really nice figure. One of the interesting things about this figure is he has gloves. I don't know if Obi-Wan was ever sporting black gloves in his Jedi tunic, but the figure has black gloves. It comes from, I think, that Bark speeder set, the one that came with the Phase 2 Captain Rex. And yeah, he has gloves. If you guys can find me some pictures of Clone Wars Obi-Wan with gloves, I'd certainly like to see them, because I don't know if that actually is supposed to be accurate. But all in all, it's nice to add 3 more figures to the collection, specifically the Clone Wars ones, because I'm missing so many of these in my collection. And now finally, we have really the only figure that I would describe as a good figure in this group of figs that I have for this haul, and it is the Jedi Consular. This came out in 2013 in the Jedi Defender class cruiser, and it's supposed to be from the Old Republic. And I mean, all the figures in that set are pretty incredible, I think. This one is certainly no different. I loved getting the Luminara style headpiece in white. I thought that was really cool. I'm guessing this is supposed to be a Marillion. Just given the eyes and kind of the clothing, I would assume that that's what her species is supposed to be. And just the printing and everything just looks pretty incredible. Like, this is such a solid figure, as are, like I said, all the other figures in that set. So for the longest time, I was just kind of putting off getting the actual set. I was like, I'm going to get the set one day. Why bother getting the figures? I've kind of decided I don't really care to get the set, but the figures, of course, aren't just figures that I want to get for my minifig wall, but I actually do want those figures because they look so good. So this is one step in the right direction, and this one will definitely make a great addition to my collection. Let's go ahead and put these figs on the wall. Alright guys, the figures have been placed on the wall. We started off up top with our boy Aldarvito. Like I said, worst figure ever. If we move over, actually right below him, we got our second B-Wing pilot boy. So it's nice to finally have both of those old school B-Wing pilots there standing next to each other. Then we started getting into the Clone Wars, and we had the gray-haired Yoda. He's chilling next to Clone Wars Mace Windu and a clone gunner. Moving on to, I guess where the figures from that Jedi shuttle would be. That's where Sicey 10 ended up going, next to that Shock T figure. Next up, of course, was the Obi-Wan figure. He's chilling right over here next to that boy Rex. I gotta figure out where that 501st helmet goes. It might be on the opposite side of this. I don't know. I think I still have the body on M&R Productions from the Vardos mock when I had him in the, I guess the Boyo Lounge. He was wearing 501st gear. So yeah, gotta actually put that figure back together among many other figures, to be quite honest. And then finally, over here, we have the Jedi Consular figure. It's looking so good, especially next to that Sith Warrior that I recently got. Still gotta put the Zabrak figure in there, but that's a pretty good looking group of figures. And if we take a step back, we are seeing the wall is coming together even more. It's still shocking to me that I have these 2 figures right here. Like, I never would have anticipated that at this time of this year, I'd have 2 of the expensive figures from Cloud City. Still got to get the Lando and the Boba, but that section is looking pretty dang good. So I'm very appreciative for those of you who helped me out with that. And yeah, this wall is really coming together. I know you guys really love seeing these updates, and it's looking a lot better. Still got a lot of those old school figures to fill in. Those aren't super expensive figures, so it's not like a super huge like burden or thing that I'm dreading. It's just there seems to be so many of them. Like, I feel like I buy a decent amount of figures, but there's still so many big holes towards the top of this minifig wall. But we are getting there. We are making our way to a mostly completed wall. Once again, if we're looking at the bottom, it stops pretty early. there's more figures that have come out since then that I just can't put on the wall, namely those from the new Tantive 4 set. And then we have Episode 9 sets coming out, and those won't be able to fit down there either. But if you guys haven't been keeping up, basically, we're not going to worry about a lot of those new figures towards the bottom until I get a lot more of the top situated, because I know more figures are going to come out. I'm getting them. I have them in my possession. I just have not yet put them on the wall because I'm going to have to end up extending this wall. So rather than having to do that a bunch, I'm going to just worry about taking care of the top half of the wall. And then once I feel I've gotten to a good place there, then I can worry a little bit more about the bottom half. But in the meantime, I'm still just trying to fill in a lot of gaps. I think it's coming along pretty well. And hopefully I can start putting out these updates a lot more frequently than they have been coming, at least recently. So let me know in the comment section, actually a few things. So let me know what you think about the wall so far, but then also let me know what is your favorite figure out of the bunch that we got this week. Maybe that's something we'll start doing here on these videos. So that's going to finish it up, guys. Like I always say, if you like what I do, go ahead, support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.